Hey everyone, how are you doing today? I piqued your curiosity, did I, Martin? I did play chess this weekend. Let's not talk about it. Okay, we are here with the final round of the Isle of Man Grand Swiss tournament, in which the top player, who is not Magnus or Fabiano, will qualify to the candidates. Exciting. Yes, I did get a haircut, Hiyataman. Actually, last Thursday, but it didn't really help me out. Perpetual, how are you? So, I feel like... Yeah. I feel like there should be a Chess24 chat I'm supposed to follow, but I couldn't find it. So we'll do with Twitch for now. Yeah, I think that's a smart idea, Perpetual. Okay, so we got ourselves some games. I put the standings right up there in my little graphic. Because the standings are important. And the first tiebreaker, in case of equal amount of points, is how highly rated your opponents are. And that basically means that Wang Hao, should he win his game, he's probably going to win the tournament, given that Fabiano doesn't win this position with black. Actually, let's talk about hypotheticals in the future. For now, let's just take a look at some of these openings we have. I'm starting the stream 1 hour after the games have started. And I'm pretty happy with that decision because we don't have that many moves and that many games, to be honest with you. And one of the things I notice is that there are certain players here who need to win this final game. And regardless of prize money and whatnot, the spot in the candidates is the primary concern. And so Hikaru, with the white pieces, he's in a bad spot. He needs basically everyone else to make draws, and he needs to win his game. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. So what opening does he choose to go for against Fabiano's Petrov? Hikaru chooses d3, d4, and we're in a French exchange variation. French exchange variation in a must-win game. That's pretty special. Bear from Ukraine, thank you so much for the 21-month resub. How much do you think Carlsen cares about his no-loss streak? I think, Martin, the more it's talked about, the more he cares about it. But at the moment, actually, let's bring up Magnus's game, because that game is pretty crazy. Aronian has already moved his king. Aronian has the bishop pair. Magnus has not developed his queen side, but this pawn on d5 is in big trouble and is a long-term weakness for Aronian. So this is an incredibly interesting game, and Aronian is one of those guys in a must-win situation. So he's just going for it. He's sending it. He's playing the most aggressive line you can play against the Nimso Indian. So he played this variation with f3, just trying to build a huge center with e4 coming up next. Ryataman with the Twitch Prime for 20 months. Thank you so much. Hey, Past Pawn, how you doing? Bishop pair versus the goat. Yeah, Alex. Who do you think comes up on top of that? Final rounds are exciting, Helmholtz. It's why we're, but also especially since there's so much at stake. I mean, one thing is a regular tournament when there's, there's a lot at stake, but also because this is a Grand Swiss with so many players, it's so much closer. There's so many more people who can win going into the final round. In a normal like round robin tournament among the elite, there's like maybe 2 people who can win the tournament. Here, we have 8 guys in contention. So that's pretty cool. Yes, Flo. This is new. It's called Channel Points. And it gives you some special powers. I'm really not sure about how it should be priced and stuff. But it's new. It kind of gives your message some extra glam. You can also get some of the sub emotes for 24 hours. And you gain these channel points by being in the stream. Basically just watching the stream. So it's a new feature. In a couple of days, it's going to be very, very normal in every Twitch stream. So we're early adopters right now. I'm very happy with my war command. Such great clickbait. Okay, so F3 Aronian played, and it became a very complicated position from the get-go. Look at all of this tension with the pawns threatening both ways. Yeah, I'm really excited about this game. Aronian going for it, Magnus also going for it. And I think it's important to mention that Aronian is one of very few people in the world. Basically, it's Aronian and Fabiano. Those, in my opinion, are the only 2 guys who are capable of outplaying Magnus. Because I feel like Magnus gets outplayed from time to time, but very often it's because Magnus chooses to play incredibly aggressively and stuff like that. But Fabiano and Levon are able to outplay Magnus even when Magnus is happy with a draw, which is a very rare ability to have. Slumka coming in with a 10-month resub. Thank you so much. Hammers are never wasted, Ryata man. What are you talking about? Hammers can only be used for very beneficial stuff. So they're never wasted. Yeah, well, I don't know how the channel points is going to work in the future, Ryata man, but I think as it stands now, this is how I've chosen to do it. And I'll probably have to make adjustments as we learn how the system works. Yeah, Alex. Alex is learning how the system works. Soon, maybe the channel points is going to, be like some of the extensions. I know that Tori has this extension where you can purchase timeouts on other people. And then Alex is not just going to say, be quiet. He's just going to time you out. Hey Gelo, what's up? I'm just watching some chess. I'm watching Levon Aronian and Magnus Carlsen playing some really aggressive stuff. Also, did you guys notice 1, 2, 3, 4? This man has moved around his bishop quite a bit in the opening. And then Magnus goes knight d7. Because he feels like he needs to break down this white pawn structure, which is basically just controlling everything in the center. So he wants to go for f5. And then Levon has to move his king. It's a really fascinating position. Oh, we have another move. Queen d2. Ooh, which computer says is a big mistake. I'm a lazy man. What can I say? I'm a very lazy man. Computer says it's a big mistake. It's not really clear one way or the other. But Magnus does play knight f6. And we see that the main problem of Levon's position is that there's going to be a lot of pieces potentially attacking this pawn on d5. I don't think that's possible, Flo. Who played chess, Hammer or Mubot? Yeah, it's very unclear, working class. But if anything, Mubot is even more grumpy than me, so I would choose not to challenge it, regardless. Thank you, Snakey. You're so excited about the game, Higher Space? I'm glad to hear it. It's a good one so far. Really aggressive opening from both players. You can tell that both guys really want to win this. I'm glad to hear that, Jake. I mean, so far, people are just checking out the law of the land, and no one has started kind of making me relive the tough moments of my weekend. Sessa says it's 0.00. Okay, yeah, chess is a lot of fun. Bursting coming in with the 17 months. Did I say that? And also Marius with the 22 months. 22 months. Oh, we're closing in on the big 2-year anniversary. Gamalchev, I was not really excited to play a tournament again. Well, I was excited in the first like half an hour. And then I started having trouble making moves and finding good ideas. And then I lost the game on day 2. And now I'm just depressed. Chess will do that to you. Slumka, you cannot gamble for the hammers, I'm afraid. That is such a pity. I feel like my chat really needed that, entertainment. Nisha, you might be right. As a professional chess player, I lose all sense of time. However, I do kind of regain some of that sense of time once I play weekend tournaments. So I think this time it's your perspective being messed up. When is the 2-year anniversary? My first stream passed pawn, or rather the day I made Twitch partner, I think was December 21st or 20th, 2017. So late December. Is that a Yelp mug? No, it's a St. Louis Chess Club mug. Warming up the commentary mind for the Fischer Random? Yeah, Eddie, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be doing actually solo commentary for Fischer Random. Dinner and a movie. Sure, Alex. We can do that. Honestly, I read this article the other day where someone was saying that Twitch was... I think I read it in one of my Twitch partnership emails. That Twitch was enabling kind of co-watching of Amazon Prime videos and TV shows, as long as your viewers also were Prime members. So it would be like Prime only shows where you're just sitting watching a TV show. And it sounds absolutely brilliant. I mean, how could they do Twitch Sings before they did the co-watching of TV shows? There's a new season of Jack Reacher. I think it's out November 1st. It's going to be great. No, I don't think the Lalum is not going to be doing commentary. Gamal It's just going to be me on a budget. Oh yeah, Eddie, I may have said that Hammer, Augustine, and Lalum was going to be the coverage, but actually since then, VG has scaled down and they cancelled their original plans. And now the plan is that I will basically do a Twitch stream that is featured on VG with, the footage, TV footage, and then a lone commentary booth. Very similar to what we did for World Blitz and Rapid last year. Most Amazon shows would be improved by someone talking through it. Well, Mr. Dodgy, I'm your guy. If Naka wins versus Karana, would there be talk about their St. Louis Chess Club overlords had something to do with it? I don't think so, Hiyata, man. I think Fabiano and Hikaru, through all of their US chess championship battles, and the status of being the number one player in the US, I don't think they would have it in them to do that. I think they are competitors. I hope so, Eddie. Yes, Arctic DJ. I'm playing the Banter Blitz today. I'm hoping to win, but I have a really tough opponent, so it's going to be tricky. Karana has nothing to lose, and it will be huge for Hikaru. Yeah. But Fabiano is almost winning the tournament ahead of Magnus. And I mean, one thing is whether or not Hikaru makes it to the candidates. He's not really in the chess playing form to win the candidates anyway. It's more important that Fabiano has a good feeling about his skills and that he feels he can beat Magnus, right? Mr. Dodgy! Wow, that is a very exclusive Twitch Prime membership subscription. Wow, I am honored, sir. Thank you so much. Jake, there are some really good videos on Prime and some good shows. But my problem is I watched all of them. And they are really, really bad at announcing when the next season will be available. Eddie, I'm glad to hear that, although I have no idea what you mean by Night Age 2. I trust that I said something clever about it in a video. Is Levon still thinking? Wow, Levon is still thinking, and he has been thinking for 10 minutes. You can get the next episode app. Okay, Eunice, I am writing that down. Next. And that works in Norway? Next episode app, Norway. Track episodes. Air dates. Okay, this is probably brilliant. This is probably what I've been looking for. Thank you, Eunice. Well, I don't think it's Prime's app, though. Keep your cool. But I think someone has recognized that a lot of these streaming services have a problem kind of properly promoting when things are out and stuff like that. So they've filled a gap in the market. This tiebreak system needs to change. What do you think it should be, random name? If Magnus wins this game, is there a chance he wins the tournament? Yes, Mr. Chow. If Magnus wins, Fabiano loses, and Wang Hao and Alexienko does not win, then Magnus will win the tournament. So basically, you can see the standings on the screen. Magnus needs to be half a point ahead of those guys who are ahead of him right now. Because Magnus has worse tiebreaks than those guys. So he needs to be half a point ahead of Alexienko, Wang Hao, and Caruana. Flow. Yeah, I'm not using the chessboard that much. But chat is busy, so that's nice. Hey Shay, how are you doing today? When was the last time an Englishman was a world championship candidate? I mean, the Hiataman, it's been a while, but it hasn't been that bad. I mean, Nigel Short played a match for the championship in 93, 95. I don't think we owe the Englishman anything. But yeah, of those nations in the running, I suppose he is one of the, let's say, more unusual species, nationalities. If two players are tied and they played each other, the game between them should not count. Yeah, that's fair, random name, but also you need to think about the fact that the Swiss system works in a way where the highest rated player gets higher rated opponents than their competitors. So I completely agree that Magnus is at a disadvantage because his rating is so much higher than everyone else's. So he's having some issues with everyone else's tiebreak being better than his, partly because of his rating making their tiebreak good. But at the same time, Magnus probably has gotten higher rated opponents throughout as a result of being the number one seed. So sometimes you hope that those two things balance themselves out. However, since Magnus is like 100 points more than the next guy, it's probably not balanced as is. But the tiebreaks are really tricky. The tiebreaks are really, really tricky. Howell looks like he peaked already. Keep your cool. What are you talking about? He's almost qualifying to the candidates right now. If that's not his peak, then he's a very, very good player, isn't he? Fabi losing is a big ask. Yeah, Mr. Chow, but on the other hand, Hikaru is very motivated. Short played a short match. Yes, that he did, Jake. Kasparov Vichy was 95. Okay, so then Short was 93 probably. Adams was the last British candidates in knockout. Yeah, but knockout, I'm not sure we count knockouts, Trollsar. So maybe the latest British candidate wasn't really in the candidate system as it is. Wow, chat is moving way faster than normal. What's going on? Opponents are trying to prepare drawing alliance versus Magnus. Yeah, I think that's true. But at the same time, that just means Magnus needs to make a lot of use of his white pieces. Mr. Chow, I completely agree. Because it's a qualification for the candidates, I agree that there should be some kind of a playoff. So since this is a very special tourney, I think it should have special tiebreak rules. But in general, I think the one being used here now is one of the better ones. Yeah, but Master, that can be random at times as well. What is the site that you're looking at the games? Hikaru fan, I'm using Chess24 special software for broadcasting of games. Wait, what TV show are we talking about? The best show of all, Breaking Bad. Oh, really? Progressive score, Jake? That's interesting. David Smurden, who is he's a grandmaster from Australia, but he's also an economist. He was saying he also liked the progressive scores. And he said that the tiebreak system should be decided with some knowledge-based, like that you should do research and data to figure out what is the best tiebreak system. But then he said that progressive score was kind of the best one, but he didn't show his sources. He didn't really do what he told everyone else to do, which is to kind of explain why it's the best, to quote data on it. Yes, yeah, I made the switch. Yeah, it's very tricky to find the best tiebreak system, Master, which I think is why a lot of people like to have a playoff. Because all tiebreaks have pros and cons, and with the tiebreak, with the playoff, you're just let the people decide it at the board when knowing what's at stake. And also, the playoffs make it possible to have some great comeback stories. So, for instance, now Hikaru, he's almost drawing dead, right? Because of his poor tie breaks. Whereas with a playoff, he would be certain he could win the tournament if he beat Fabiano. Eilertson coming in with the 18-month resub. Thank you so much. Who's your favorite chess commentator? Asks random name. Yeah, I mean, I like Svidler. I think he's interesting. I mean, the guy talks a lot, but what he says is very interesting. And he's one of the very best players in the world. He's genuinely top level, top tier. So it's also about, for my strength, I feel like I can learn stuff by listening to him. So I would say my favorite is Svidler. Why is there no visible timers for the players? That's a very good point. Very, very good point. Let me ask a question. Thank you, Sveike. Yeah, it was business related. Yeah, Leko is great as well. Keep your cool. I haven't watched his commentary though, but I love Leko as a player, as a person. He has a very calm demeanor. I'm certain Leko would be a great commentator. Descartes, I'm looking into the timers. Maybe there's some setting. This is the first time I use this software, so I'm not too familiar with it. Okay, we have a move. Aronian thought for more than 15 minutes and played the move Rook C1. I feel like he's trying to trap Magnus's queen. Yes, he is trying to trap the queen. And if the rook takes on d5, there's bishop c4, creating a nasty pin on the rook towards black's king. So, and also if you take with the knight... Okay, if you take with the knight, I thought maybe bishop c4 here as well. But then bishop e6 covers some stuff. Instead, computer is saying after knight takes d5, bishop d4 is brilliant and winning for white. But bishop d4 is an unreasonable move. I mean, who is going to see bishop to d4? I understand that I cannot take this bishop, because then there's going to be threats towards the guy on c8. But after something like rook g5, it's not really obvious why this bishop is so great, standing en prise in the middle of the board. Hey Christian, how are you doing today? Yeah, Dadrak, I got multiple new jobs. Ooh, Jake, that's a good shout. Geary is probably a lot of fun. I haven't watched any of his commentary, but I do enjoy his Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, Master, I lost my number 2 spot in Norway. Arian has gained like 10 or 15 points, and I lost 10 points this weekend. No longer number 2 in Norway. But that also qualifies as talking about the war. So I suggest you be very careful and type !war in chat. Gega, I disagree. I think the fact that one player knows his tiebreak is not good enough means that he will be extra motivated to play for a win. So I'm not sure I agree with your analysis, but I think we agree on the result that playoffs probably are preferable. How much time do they have? Yeah, Jay Walls. I'm trying to look into that. I'm trying to ask where are the clocks in the settings. Oh, this is going to mess up my layout. Okay, we're going to the settings. Display player clocks. Okay. Where are the clocks? Ah, there they are. Amazing. I'm so good at tech. So good at tech. I'm glad to hear that, Shay. I hope you have some good games with it as well. We're having a competition about the best games using the Hammer 1e4 repertoire. I would love to get a submission, one of your best games, after you learn the repertoire. I'm glad to hear that, Casa. We'll be going for quite some time. You'll probably be back home by the time we know who is going to qualify for the candidates. Yeah, still Norway's best chess streamer. Thank you, Gondolius. Until Magnus starts deciding that I'm going to do some of this Hikaru stuff. Hikaru isn't going to have the monopoly on chess streaming among the top guys. Then I'll be the second best there as well. Yeah, no worries, Wolves. You were not the only one feeling like something was lacking. Unreal. Yes, you can buy emotes now for 24 hours using the new channel currency. It's called channel points. You can Google it, Twitch channel points. And I've decided to call this currency hammers. And by using your hammers gained through watching my streams, you can buy access to emotes for 24 hours. The activity of this chat, yeah, Hiata, man, it's unreal. I'm so used to chat going slower that I'm struggling. When are you playing today, Shaki Yunus? I'm playing at 10 p.m. Oslo time in 6 hours. I'm playing the Banter Blitz Cup. Yeah, Christian, I'm surprised that Magnus is actually down on time because Aronyan just spent an insane amount of time on his move. And yet he's still up on time. Okay, so Magnus has made a move. He played bishop a6, which makes a lot of sense because that's preventing the bishop from coming to the c4 square, where it protects / puts pressure towards the d5 square. And Aronyan immediately replied with b3. So we see that he clearly wants to put the bishop on c4 because then he can get the rook up and attack the queen. However, what now happens on knight takes d5, where the knight takes a pawn, which is good, and also threatens the bishop on e3. Too many hammers too quickly, says Jake. Okay, we'll look into changing the prices. Jake, I knew that it was gonna be difficult finding out the right kind of. Yeah, we'll raise the prices soon enough. Oh, really, Alex? Are you there? Good boy, here's 100 hammers. Wow. I think we're going to need a hammer central bank to cope with all of this hammer inflation. Knight takes d5 is a forced draw according to Sessa. Yeah, that sounds very exciting, random name. Maybe we should just quit the stream and not care. Because Sessa has said it's a forced draw. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a good day. I'm looking mainly at this one, random name. Wow, Fabiano gave up a bishop. Random name comes into chat, says, it looks like Fabiano made a mistake. And the very next message is full, pointing out that Fabiano has given away the bishop pair. I wonder what the mistake was. Fabiano should know better than to give up his bishops. Okay, we'll take a look. Wow. That is egregious. He just gave away a bishop for a knight. Just like that. Can you believe it? Okay, so Hikaru's going to take back. Fabiano's going to play knight e4. And his idea is that after bishop h2, he has counterplay against the e5 pawn, which looks fair enough. But the computer is saying that here, Hikaru should give away his bishop, which doesn't really make any sense, because he just won the bishop pair, and now he's going to give it away. But yeah, there are some problems with how to defend the pawn on e4. Wow, Hiyata, man, that sounds like a very advanced and clever strategy. Yeah, it was his good bishop, Slumka, but on the other hand, it's kind of making Hikaru's bishop worse. So this bishop for Hikaru was doing a pretty good job in this diagonal, but after the capture on e5, when you take back with the pawn, now this pawn is blocking this bishop's diagonal. So yes, Hikaru won the bishop pair, but now he's going to think about how to improve the situation of the bishop on g3 in the next couple of moves, because at the moment it's not doing great. And especially if you choose to go bishop h2 here, it's not really a very happy guy in the corner. He's a clever guy then, Boso. Random name, you're the one coming into chat spouting engine evaluations. You can't really complain when I do the same thing. Why not bishop h2? Well, because then you get pressure against the pawn more quickly. You know, I'm just doing what the computers tell me to do, dude. Yeah, Shay, I'm streaming my Banter Blitz match tonight. Hammer cheering for Team Knights? I'm just saying there are pros and cons, Jake. I'm just saying there's pros and cons. Anyway, this has gotten Hikaru thinking, because Hikaru now has spent 5 minutes on this move. And whenever your opponent takes a piece like this, you know, there's only two options. You take with the bishop or you take with the pawn. And the fact that Hikaru is thinking means that he's genuinely considering taking with the bishop, and thereby giving away this opportunity to win the bishop pair, but rather sit in a situation where he has this advanced pawn on e5, follow up with f4, and then he's able to put his pieces on dark squares without blocking a bishop placed on g3. Half an hour how to figure out how to use the hammer coins. Wow, Perpetual. That is half an hour you're never getting back, huh? But at the same time, it's an investment for the future. What do I think of Hikaru's opening? It was kind of strange. So in this is the exchange variation of the French. It's supposed to be one of the most boring openings ever. And Hikaru plays this move h3, which is not very common. And I'm assuming his idea is that if bishop d6, he would have gone c4. And then castles and c5. Something like this. Which is, you know, it's a position. It's not a position where white is better, but it's a position where you get some chances for both sides. Weak player. For Magnus to win the tournament, he needs Fabiano to lose. So your analysis is correct in terms of Magnus needs to be half a point ahead of the guys in front of him, which is Alexienko, it's Van Hao, and it's Caruana. However, Caruana is already half a point ahead of Magnus. So Magnus needs Fabiano to lose, he needs himself to win, and that Alexienko and Van Hao doesn't win their games. H3 looks so weird. Yeah, no, I mean the point of H3 is to prevent the development of this bishop. So what Hikaru did in the game was that he first went H3, which covers the G4 square, and then he went bishop D3, which covers the F5 square. And those are the top two squares for Black's light squared bishop. So the way he did it, it actually worked quite well, because he managed, and still managed, to make sure that this bishop doesn't get into play. Notice how still on move 19, this bishop is out of play. Oh, and this is not the game position. This is the game position. Took you 45 minutes. Wow, Martinez. Hey Sergey, how you doing? What's the point for Caruana even playing? Clash Kids, he just wants to play a tournament with high-level players. The same question applies for Magnus. Why is Magnus playing? He did not only qualify to the candidates, he qualified for the stage beyond the candidates. And actually, I saw an interview with Magnus where he just said outright that he believes he should not be allowed to participate in this tournament. However, the rules do not state that people who are already qualified cannot play. And for organizers, they want to have Fabiano in their tournaments. They want to have Magnus in their tournaments. And someone made the point on Twitter that it's not 100% certain that they would find an organizer for this event if they said that Magnus Carlsen is not allowed to participate. Because a chess tournament with and without Magnus are two entirely different things from a marketing perspective. How many hammers to time out moderators? We'll figure that out, Alex. Oh, really, Hyataman? That's interesting. I didn't know that. Caruana can win $70,000 if he wins this. That seems like pretty decent motivation to play the tournament. I didn't realize the prices were that high. Isle of Man chess tournament. Prices. Please click where it says prices. My internet is not great. Yes, weak player. Fabiano is ahead in tie breaks. You can see that on the far right edge of the graphic on the screen, which says TB1. That's tie break number 1. And Fabiano is ahead. So Magnus needs to have half a point more. It's a lot of text. I just want to know what the prices are. Tournament info. Prize money. I'm clicking. Grand Suez. $70,000 first prize. Second prize $50,000. Third prize $40,000. Fourth is $35,000. Wow, the prices are pretty solid. Won't the tie breaks change after this round? That's a very good question, Hyataman. I was under the assumption that they wouldn't, because they really should post the standings, including the next round. But yes, you're right. I don't think the standings include this round. But it doesn't really change anything. The only thing it changes is that, Hikaru is going to get a better tiebreak than Vitiugov, and Aronian is going to get a better tiebreak than Carlsen. But other than that, it doesn't really change anything. Because at this point, they already played 10 rounds, so the tiebreak will never make big changes. Yeah, good questions, Hiataman and Ojeles. Who do you think would have the best chances against Magnus in 2020? Asks Clash Kid. Ding or Karana? I would say Karana. I think he's been consistently good in a different way to any of the others. So I think it's very clear that Fabiano is the number 2 player in the world. And Ding is probably pretty clear as the number 3. Let's check the rating lists. I haven't seen that in a while. Yeah, so, I mean, in the rating lists, Magnus is 2870, Karana is 2820, and Ding is 2800. And then 4th place is Vacher Lagrave, who is down at 2777, which is really fascinating. Previously, not too many years ago, we had like 5 players at 2800, and we had like 10 players above 2790, I feel. But now the number 4 spot is 2777, which is the lowest it has been for a decade, I would think. A very, very long time. And I wonder if anyone in chat can figure out why is it like this. Use your powers of deduction to figure out why is the number 4 player in the world rated so much lower than what is normal? Rating is deflating? No. Because Magnus is crushing so hard recently. Yes, Clash Kid, that is the answer we were looking for. Magnus has been taking points off everyone in the world's elite. And for that reason, there's not as many people close to the 2800 mark. Chess players found streaming which decreased their rating. Checks out, Hiata man. Checks out, he said, laughing. Depressed laughter. Okay, so Magnus has played knight takes d5. This is an extremely critical moment in this game. Magnus has taken a pawn. He's threatening the bishop. And now there's a very cool move suggested by the computer. Rook to c4. Threatening the queen. And if the bishop takes the rook, then white gets a winning position because the bishop takes back, threatens the knight, and creates a pin towards the black king. So you cannot take this rook, but you can move your queen back, after which the position is still incredibly messy. And honestly, I kind of like Magnus's position because he has the better central control and he's a pawn up. So rook c4 is one of those cool moves, but it's not really clear that it's doing anything. Is Carlsen getting any closer to beating his own rating record? I mean, he was very close at some point, Descartes. But then he played a tournament where he made almost a draw in every single game. And when you're so highly rated as Magnus is right now, those draws really poke holes in your rating. So he actually lost a lot of room for that record. But I still think that he's closer than he's been in a long time, and he's definitely gunning for it. It's definitely on his mind. And whenever Magnus puts his mind to something, he quite often succeeds. I think that's fair to say. Remember when Carano was going to pass Magnus on the rating list? Yeah, it's not that long ago. People were wrong. I told them they were wrong. Streaming money. Keep your cool. Let me assure you that Hikaru makes a lot more money from playing chess than streaming chess. I mean, yes, that is speculation, but I think it's a pretty sound assessment of the situation. He's doing the streaming because he thinks it's fun. I don't think generating an income is his primary target. Hey, GMJIH, how you doing? Got yourself a teacup. That's nice. I got one as well. Red, green light from settings. Red, green light. User move. Show legal moves. Auto promote to queen. Display player photos. That could be cool. But requires a restart. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I don't see it. Yeah, shockingly, Tankan. GMJIH was previously known as the fake GMJLH, and then he decided to behave and change his capitalization. Alexander, did you play NM in year 2000? I don't know if you mean like the youth championship or the other one, Alexander. Because I didn't play the Landsturneringen in 2000, no. I lived elsewhere on the globe. Yeah, Clash Kid, maybe. And also I think their ratings were so close because Magnus wasn't at his best and Fabiano was close to his best. Ratings are, quite a good indicator on how you've done recently. So there's a lot of kind of obvious information we can get out of it. Levon Aronian needs to win this game in order to qualify for the candidates tournament. And he has played Rook C4. What a guy. And the board is on fire. But what happens next? So Magnus is probably going to get his queen back. Then Rook E4 is the suggested move. If I were to play with the black pieces here, I would capture this bishop. Ooh. And the graphics on the left-hand side is saying I should not have done that. Because now there's the move knight F5. But why is that important? I don't understand. Well, the queen is being threatened. We'll move the queen. Takes. Ooh, queen takes d5. Ooh, computers. They're so good at chess. Unbelievable stuff. Queen takes d5. So one thing is that you get black to enter this fork, which isn't a big deal in itself. Because black already captured one of your pieces, so you're just taking back the piece that black already captured. The key to this is the next move. When the bishop is threatened, the bishop is going to have to retreat, and then the combination ends with knight c7. That was the real point of the knight f5 move. The real point is revealed a knight's journey afterwards when the knight picks up the rook in the corner. That is some really, really tricky stuff to see. That is danger. Big, big danger. Alex, I don't know. It's too early to tell. I'm going to be very busy in every month going forward. Why does Caruana have 7.5 points? Danishur, going into the last round, Fabiano has a half-point lead. So he is the favorite to win this tournament because of that. I'm sure Levon will see that knight c7. Yeah, I think so too, Tankan. But just the fact that such traps exists, it demonstrates that both players need to be very, very careful here. And frankly, because Magnus is undeveloped, he may be the one having to be the most careful. What can I say, Hikaru fan? Alejesa is pretty good at chess. That is really deep. How would someone spot that? Descartes, these guys are pretty awesome at chess, I would say. Oh, Alejesa is playing Corey in their Banter Blitz match right now. Unreal. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that is something Magnus will have to avoid. Right now, his queen is under attack. He's going to move the queen. But notice the clock times. Magnus is down to 40 minutes on the clock. And while Magnus is a fantastic blitz player, he's not really used to these situations where he's down on time in classical chess, because most of the time he's so freaking fast. So he doesn't get to kind of experience that classical chess time pressure problems too often. So I feel like Aronian can be really happy about how the game has gone so far. He has definite winning chances, a really complicated position. He sacrificed a pawn. Computer's saying it's equal, but really, even though it's equal, there's so much play left on the board. So many complications, so many traps you could fall into. So Aronian definitely happy with how this has gone so far. Over the board match. Oh, Enril, I didn't even realize. He's playing a match against Corey in Hogenven. Did I pronounce that correctly? We'll leave that up to the Dutch people in chat. What is the correct move for Magnus now? The computer is saying that both f6 and e7 is good for, well, fine for black. But, you know, it's a really tricky position. Okay, let's take a look at Fabiano. Magnus is actually cheering for Hikaru in this game. Because in order for Magnus to win the tournament, he's going to need for Fabiano to lose, since Fabiano has better tiebreaks than Magnus. So Magnus needs to win his match, and Fabiano needs to lose his. And at the moment, this is all about the pawn on e4, and whether or not Hikaru can put himself in a situation to capture that pawn. A lot. I'll be doing commentary at VG, so I won't have a role on a location. Let's say I'll be doing commentary from downtown Oslo. You would still assume Magnus is the favorite? I'm not so sure. Random name. I think it's a 50-50 call. I would maybe even favor Aronian due to the clock situation. Ha, did it really, Bozo? Hogan Vane. Hogan Vane. That's pretty good. Yeah, I wish that was my job, Alex. I wish I could just choose the starting position. I would get the regular starting position with a king on the D file and the queen on the E file. That would freak them out. And then I would say Fischer Random, huh? How's this for random? I did, Jake. Thank you. If Magnus doesn't lose today, he breaks Ding's record of 100 games unbeaten. Yeah. But Clash Kid, honestly, Magnus could keep that going for quite some time. We'll see where he ends up. For now, he reached 100. There was a tweet I made on the Play Magnus channel. Fantastic graphics. Hammer style. I'll promote that in chat. I'll do some self-promo. What's the point of streaming if you're not going to promote yourself and the work you do? Let's do that and then copy. That position was removed for the qualification. Ulan, what the? They're not allowed to do that. That's not how it works. What are we going to call it then? Chess 959? Doesn't sound as good. Oh yeah, no. Oh, how do you feel about the Chess 959 championship? Oh yeah, no, I was watching Fabiano. He's so good. He's so good. Yeah. If only we could call it something other than Chess 959. Yeah. How about Chess 960? Ah, that sounds much better. Whatever can we do to make that happen? Leapers coming in with the 18-month resub. Thank you so much. CEO, I'm doing just fine. Thanks for watching. We may have to do something about the Hammer coin pricing, but for now we're keeping it. They also removed the original position. No, but Ulan, 960 includes the reversed ones, no? Doesn't it? I think because you can reverse every single position on the board. So I thought when they say chess 960, you have already deducted the reversed positions. Please, someone, maybe someone familiar with mathematics. Alex. How about calling it Fischer Random? There's a thought, Trollsar. There's a thought. 960 includes the original and the reversed ones. Wow. So Jake, it's actually chess 480? Huh? No, that doesn't sound right. Reverse doesn't exist because the castling rule is not the same. Ooh, there's a guy who knows the logic. That is absolutely correct. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. But in that case, why on earth would they remove the position where the king is on D1 and the queen is on E1? That would be like the perfect troll position where the players are so confused they have to castle with moving the king one step to the left. I am very unhappy to hear about that, Ulan. That we need to start a petition for putting that position back into the fold. Also, if they're not going to include the proper chess position, they can't really call it chess 960. They're going to find some other name. Haha, spot. That's very good. Two quick moves at Magnus's table. We'll take a look at it. Okay, so Magnus did play Queen E7 as predicted. And now Rook E4 from Aronian. And as we have discovered, Bishop takes F1 would be a big mistake. But Magnus probably not going to fall for any big mistakes. He has instead chosen the move Queen E6. Queen E6, which protects against this Knight F5 threat. And now he's ready to go Bishop takes F1 on the next move. Looks smart to me. Protecting your pieces, people. That knight needed some extra protection. This square needed some extra protection. Magnus is just keeping his position safe. And it needs to stay that way because he doesn't have that much time left. A safe position is a position you can play pretty quickly. They also had some cryptic stuff, like some positions that were too unbalanced were also removed. Okay. Did everyone know this already? Am I just late to the party? I feel like that was new information. They have been removing positions from Fischer Random. There are like positions with +1 evals at depth 30. Yeah, but that's kind of part of the charm, I thought. That you can get some really imbalanced positions. I mean, every single position they're playing with both colors. They're playing white and black. No, Quran City. Coronity. I came back last evening. So I'm at home in Oslo. Ah, they didn't play both positions during the qualifier? I never really understood the qualifying system, so I couldn't really keep track. When did you start thinking he might be a world champion? Honestly, Boso, I was amazed for quite some time. Because, I mean, I interacted with him in everyday life. So, I mean, even when he was like top 10 in the world, I just thought it was an amazing journey. That he had been able to get that far and that he was making these other players look silly. So I think I think I was like 17, 18 before it really hit me that, you know, he's going to be the best in the world. Because before that, he was number, 20 in the world. We started high school when we were 16. And I mean, he was doing well. And then he was doing better. And then he was doing better. Then he got into the top 10. He was competing with the world's elite at a regular basis. And I think by the time we left high school, he was already number 1 in the world. It was amazing. And I realized, honestly, it's a bit embarrassing. I realized pretty late that, he's just going to be the best there is. In checkers, they remove openings after 4 straws or wins are found. Huh, Ryata man. But how many checker games remain then? You both went through the same chess program? Yeah, Quantum. So there's this athlete school in Norway that has like top athletes in handball and soccer and in hockey, in what's it called, Greco-Roman wrestling and cycling, table tennis, all sorts of different sports. And one of these sports was chess, after an initiative by Simon Agdestein back in 2000. And we both went to that high school for 3 years. And so I got to experience it very up close. Magnus joining the world's elite and then, just crushing them like it was nothing. I had a lot of respect for those players, the Lekos, the Kramniks, the whatnot. But Magnus just made it look easy at some point. Hey Chespe, how are you doing? Checkers is completely solved. Yeah, that's what I thought. It doesn't really seem to have that much stuff. Hey CJ, they're still playing. Can you believe it? Can you believe that they did not play quickly? It was probably because of your tweet, I'm sure. It definitely has nothing to do with the fact that chess is played at an incredibly slow pace. Yes, you are. Leko is the last to beat Fabiano. I don't really know, Torhansa. Chespe coming in here with the Founders Badge. That is the first person in chat we've seen with a Founders Badge. And the 16-month resub. Thank you so much, Chespe. First ever Founders Badge. It really goes to show how much Chespe has supported this kind of, I would say, revolution of chess streaming and chess on Twitch. She has a Founders Badge in so many channels because she was supporting everyone when they were starting out. You were the very first sub? Wow. Did Fabiano lose in Norway? I'm not really sure what you're talking about, random name. Hammer Manukian, hey, how you doing, Hike? I know there's a Chess24 chat somewhere, I just haven't been able to find it. Is Johann Sebastian still playing? Probably, Alex. Well, unless he has the white pieces, in which case he probably made a draw already. But I'm focused on the top 4 boards, because those are the boards trying to qualify for the candidates tournament. He does have the white pieces. Well, then Alex, he probably already made a draw. I don't know what to tell you. That kid has been crazy about the draws this event. Speaking of draws, Kim coming in with the 7-month resub. Thank you. Will Jordan make the full Geary? I'm sure he's trying, Jake. I'm sure he's trying. So Jordan van Forest has 10 draws out of 10 so far. And he has to make his Dutch teammate Anish proud by going for the full set. Johann Sebastian drew Ponomarev. Wow, I'm psychic. What can I say? I'm a genius. Okay, let me see if I can find the game since we're talking about it. Oof, I need to scroll far. We're scrolling, still going. There's Aryan. Dreyev. I'm still scrolling. Turns out he's not on this PGN. He's on the next one. I don't have the temperament to find that. But Johann Sebastian making a draw against former knockout world champion Ponomarev. Pretty solid, I'll say. Who would you like to see in the candidates tournament? Asks random name. Of these people, I would like Aronyan. I'm a Aronyan fan. He's a bit of a guy. His humor can be a bit much at times. He's a troll. Surely you guys will relate. But he's funny. He's a funny troll. And his style of chess is pretty unique. And he's one of the more creative and aggressive players there is. And any tournament with him in it, playing his brand of chess, is going to be a more exciting tournament for it. Jon Ludvig as a candidate would be interesting. The thing about it's very important in the candidates that everyone is a good player, because otherwise the tournament could get decided by who manages to beat up the weak guy the most. So Hammer in the candidates sounds like a horrendous idea. Geary should not be a candidate? Why not, Bozo? Anish is pretty exciting. I mean, we make fun of him, but you do realize that Anish is one of the more aggressive players on the circuit, right? I mean, we've made it into a meme, but the memes rarely actually correspond with the truth. Ulan, gifting a sub to Master. Thank you so much. Hola, Aquila. How are you doing? Testing out the Hammer channel points, I see. He's a big personality, Jake. I think Anish in candidates, as well as Aronyan, it really spices things up. We need some of those high profiles, funny players, not afraid to stand out and not afraid to say slightly controversial things. It makes for a more exciting tournament. MVL ahead of Geary on a live rating. Yeah, but Tour, it counts as an average over a year. So I think latest intel has Anish ahead of MVL for the rating qualification spot. I mean, the guy is qualifying via his rating. So clearly he's a pretty good player, right? Minimum payout last candidates was 17,000 euros. Honestly, Hiataman, these guys are making significant money. I don't think 17k is going to make a big difference if you're a candidate level anyway. Probably the players are going to spend more than 17,000 euros preparing for the candidates event itself. Because they're interested not in the candidates tournament, they're interested in the World Championship match, where it's a guaranteed prize fund of like $1 million. Fun Forest has made the 11 out of 11 draws. Congratulations to the Netherlands. Ulan gifting a sub to Tankan for a 50th gift sub. Thank you so much, Ulan. Your support is really appreciated. And your fact finding, not to forget. Thoughts on fellow Greek Papa Uai? Yeah, I cannot pronounce that name, Wrath of Gods, but he's a very interesting guy. I played him. He completely annihilated me at some point. He plays incredibly quickly and pretty well as well. Ulan also gifting to Descartes. Thank you so much, Ulan. Can you really imagine Geary winning the candidates? Of course I can, Boso. What are you talking about? To win the candidates tournament, you need to have like a +1 score. Or no, +2, sorry. You need 2 more wins than draws. Which is often the case going to be sufficient. I could see Anish making a +2. It all depends on kind of hitting your opening prep and you know, having a good tournament, feeling good. I think if you make it to the candidates, anyone can win it. They spend 70k on prep. No, move by move, 17. 17 is what was said. Where can I buy the Hammer t-shirt? I don't know, Hake. Sometime, in the future, maybe. Gotta reset your board? Yeah, I noticed. The Rev. Double rounded? Yeah, candidates is 14 rounds, Jake. 14 rounds, 8 players, double round robin. You play all the players with white and with black. Okay, so we've had some trades on the board. And Magnus now needs to get his knight into the game. He cannot do that immediately because after knight c6, then, you know, he loses the bishop. So he's going to have to exchange off the bishop and then get his knight into play. However, computer is saying that in this situation, Magnus is a pawn up for no good reason. So computer is saying this is very, very good for Magnus. And it's saying that Levon should instead play rook takes e5. But this doesn't really look very dangerous for Magnus. Because if he chooses to just play it safe and go for the queen exchange, he's still a pawn up. Yes, his pawn structure is not optimal, but you would think that at minimum, Magnus can give back the pawn to get like his rook to do some counterplay against the pawn on a2. So I feel like at this point, Magnus is very safe, and he's just trying to figure out whether he can get a win from this. If one of the Russian taxi drivers gets into the candidates, 17k is significant, Hiataman. However, I don't see any Russian taxi drivers in the contention at the moment. Doesn't Rajabov have a terrible score against Magnus? He has had some losses against Magnus. Well, I mean, I think if Tamer wins the candidates, Magnus is going to crush him. But, you know, winning the candidates is his number one priority. That's where his focus lies. Why aren't you playing anymore? Stjärnefall, I played this weekend and we're not talking about it. And it's not motivating me to play more. Ulan, gifting a sub to Almond. Thank you so much, Ulan. This Magnus guy using the pawn up in the endgame trick again. Hiataman, I'm so glad you remember me telling that story. But I'm going to tell it again, just in case someone in chat didn't hear it. There was a point in which people were commenting that Magnus's endgame abilities were so amazing. And I made the observation that Magnus, yeah, he was winning a lot of endgames. But really the key to winning those endgames were the fact that he was getting pawn up time and time again. It wasn't just his endgame technique that was so impressive. It was the fact that he repeatedly managed to get into these endgames with a pawn up. And once again, he's a pawn up. However, Magnus, he had to move the knight to protect the rook. And after knight c6, rook takes f1. Magnus is a pawn up, but there's counterplay coming with the rook on the c file and the two black pawns on c5 and e5 being pretty weak. So what Magnus did right now, he played c4. Very, very cool move. Because he's trying to generate a passed pawn on the outside of the board. So first of all, he needs to do this before white gets his rook to the c file, because otherwise he won't be able to kind of mess up white's pawn structure. And if white takes this pawn now, these two pawns can go up the board, competing against this one pawn on a2, with potential of creating a passed pawn on the outside, what we refer to as an outside passed pawn, which means on the outside of where the rest of the pieces are, away from the other pieces. And so outside passed pawns are more valuable because it's more difficult to stop them because all the pieces are on the other side. And in this situation, after rook d8, computer definitely favors Magnus. Even though he gave away the pawn, he was up. He has potential for getting the rook involved, either to d4 or to d2. And you know, white's king is not fantastic. And he has potential for pushing the a pawn coming up. His win in the rook endgame against Vichy. Oh man, Wrath of Gods. I don't remember what you're talking about. Those world championships with Vichy, I was sleeping most of the games. And then when I woke up, I was more focused on the opening than what had happened in the middle game and end game. Rook ending. No, sorry dude, I don't recall. Can Magnus repeat all of his games in World Championship matches? I think he can, random name. But I cannot even repeat the games I played this weekend. I feel like my head is deteriorating. Sometimes I will randomly discover that, oh, I played this opening before. Like when reviewing my game afterwards, I would just, oh, yeah, no, this was played before by some guy named Hammer. If only I knew the Hammer games. Game 5? Yeah, I don't recall Game 5, Boso. Let's see, Game 1, he had the white pieces. So Game 5, he had the white pieces. I think he made the breakthrough in Game 4. Or was it Game 5? Maybe Game 5 was the breakthrough. And then he won Game 5 and Game 6. I remember that he won 2 games in a row in Chennai, and that pretty much decided the match. It feels good. It feels good using the timeout command. Okay, there's a new move, says Hiyataman. Ooh, knight f5. So Levon chooses not to capture this pawn. Instead, he's going for the trickery. Because if Magnus now captures on b3, then Levon is planning to go queen takes c6. And then with the fork on the king and on the queen. So Magnus is going to have to prevent that. Working class hero, I needed to time out someone today. You became the victim. Provoking the bear, at some point it's gonna bite. Is this just a draw after b takes a2? According to the computer, apparently this is a draw. But that is kind of freaky. Rook b8. With the idea that if knight takes pawn, then rook b2. That's pretty nasty. If the knight moves somewhere else, then rook b1 even wins it. No, we don't shorten timeouts, Jake. Well, okay, maybe a little bit. I feel like the standard timeout of 10 minutes is a bit rough. I feel like the standard should be more like, I don't know. I did sign for Chess24 Nabot. Use the command C24 for more information. Okay, let's take a look at Fabiano's game. Because if Magnus is going to win this tournament, he needs Fabiano to lose. And I have some news. Fabiano is not going to lose. In fact, Fabiano may be winning this tournament. He has an equal position with opposite colored bishops against Hikaru. And I think this position is so dead. It's so void of chances to generate any sort of winning chances. I actually think Hikaru might give up just here. Because if Hikaru somehow could get the knight to b5, then he could try to exploit some of the squares here on the dark squares. But the problem is, if you go knight b5, black captures a rook. Feels bad. And if you exchange first, then it's very important that Fabiano does not play rook takes, because then knight b5 and there's some chances, some minor chances to make something happen. But instead Fabiano will take with the bishop, creating a pin along the d-file, making sure that the knight cannot move. And therefore, I think this game is just going to be over. Hikaru has taken the rook on e8, Fabiano is going to take back with the bishop. And with that, Fabiano has guaranteed himself that he will be at minimum on equal amount of points as the winner. But even more so, thanks to his tie breaks, the only ones who can catch him now is going to be Wang Hao and Kirill Alexienko. So he's in a great spot to win this tournament. Didn't you have a goal to reach top 100 some years ago? Stianafal, I have been top 100 many times. I mean, I had a goal at some point to establish myself in like top 70, to like consistently stay in top 70 for a couple of years. I never actually managed to do that. And the last couple of years, ever since I had this most horrendous 2 months right after I made my 2700 high score rating, I lost like 60 points in a very short time frame. And after that, I've never really worked on chess because I was just so disappointed and didn't have the same motivation. Okay, they are exchanging both rooks, which means this is going to be a draw. And let's take a look at, there are some really interesting games going on. One of which is Alexienko. And Jake says that Alexienko cannot catch up with Fabiano, which is accurate. Alexienko has 27.14 average. Fabiano has 27.17. So if I had been able to read, I would have made that same conclusion myself. So Alexienko still trying to win this in a very interesting and really tense game against Vityugov. But it's actually Wang Hao who is the only one. Wang Hao is the only one who can catch Fabiano. And let's be honest, it's not looking great for the Chinese player. I don't think he's going to win this. But on the other hand, who cares about getting first place in the tournament when you can qualify to the candidates? We are in a situation right now, ladies and gentlemen, where Fabiano might win the tournament, but Wang Hao, despite probably having to acquiesce to a draw in this game against David Howell, he might qualify for the candidates regardless. And let's take a look at Magnus Carlsen. We have moves coming in. Magnus actually did go for this pawn takes b3 variation, allowing queen takes c6, which we did analyze, and we concluded that this is just a draw. Or did we? Because after takes, knight checks, king moves, knight takes queen. It's a pretty safe bet. Pawn takes, knight takes, rook b8. All of this is already on the board. And now Aronian plays rook a1. So he realizes that his knight is unable to get back into the game. But he just plays rook a1. And after knight takes, rook takes, there's a threat against the pawn on a7, which is pretty tricky to face for Magnus. And after rook b7, then rook a5 puts the pressure on the pawn on e5. And Magnus is going to be unable to stay up a pawn. If he tries to defend, the king will come join the party. And we will get a situation like this, where the rook and king working together against the pawn on e5, and we'll get some sort of repetition of moves. Why so happy for Caruana? She's a big fan, working class hero. That's how it works. You cheer for your guys. It's like me cheering for Magnus and Aronian, which is kind of tricky seeing as how they're playing against each other, but, you know, c'est la vie. Alexienko all the way. Yeah, Chess Weeb. At the moment, the game between Alexienko and Vityugov is looking very, very interesting. And the winner in that game is probably going to qualify to the candidates tournament. So after we get a conclusion on the final result in this Carlsen-Aronian game, we'll head over to Alexienko and figure out whether he can get a win to be a sub 2700 player qualifying to the candidates. Thank you so much, Stianafal. I really, yeah. Honestly, Norwich as 2015, I'm happy with my performance. And I do agree that my performance was not properly reflected in my results. And I appreciate you acknowledging and recognizing that. He's not sub 2700. What? The ratings are on the screen. He's 2674. Oh, but you're saying he gained so much rating through his performance here. Okay, let's check it out. Alexienko. Alexienko has gained 40 rating points. 40 rating points in the last 18 games he's played. That is unfreaking believable. 40 rating points at this level in 1 month. That is so sick. Okay, Carlsen has agreed to a draw, says Skirsey. We're just going to check out what were the final moves. The king comes in order to capture this pawn, and then rook a6, clever move, because it prevents Magnus's king from joining the party, which means that the white king can just go up and grab the pawn, no problem. And honestly, here the best way to play for Magnus is probably just rook b2, starting the counterattack, and then just checks for the rest of our lives. Okay, so Alexienko no longer 2670. I don't think I've ever seen that before. A guy at this level. He already, before the tournament started, he was a top 100 player in the world. He was probably more like number 60 in the world. But over the course of his last 2 tournaments, he's made his way from number 60 to number 30. Why King f8 and not King f7? Well, Wrath of Gods, I think the reason, the instinct... both Magnus and I had the same instinct to go King f8, which is that if King f7, it feels as though there are some more options with checks. So my instinct was to go King f8 because it avoided checks. As it turns out, probably this would have been the same variation, but it doesn't really matter. Because after rook a6, the king is prevented from joining the party anyhow. So that puts Levon out of the candidates, or he still has a chance. Ryataman, he can still qualify via... How's the FIDE Grand Prix series? They're still playing, right? I know there's this guy, Martin Benedict. He has a very nice spreadsheet. He has a very nice spreadsheet. Let's see if I can find it. Ben Martin Benedict. So he has this thing where he follows the race to the candidates. I'll share with you one of his latest tweets. So he has a Google spreadsheet where he updates who is the closest to qualifying for the candidates. He didn't update the Grand Swiss recently, but Mamedyarov and Grishchuk are in the lead in the Grand Prix, and there's a wild card. So Aronian either has to make a big comeback in the Grand Prix, which seems unlikely because he's done poorly in the Grand Prix so far. He only has one tournament remaining and is sitting on 0 points. So that's probably not going to happen. So Levon's best chance is to get a wild card. But with the tournament being announced to be held in Russia, I feel it's very likely that the wild card nominee is going to be a Russian. And if so, Aronian is out. He will not be fighting for the World Championship this cycle. He has to win both events. That's too bad, Jake, because he is only participating in one of them. So yeah, Aronian is not going to win the Grand Prix. He's not going to be top 2 there. So he needs to get the wild card, which seems unlikely. Kramnik out of retirement for the wild card. I doubt it, Riata man. Okay, let's. This game has ended in a draw. We are interested in who is going to qualify for the candidates tournament. And right now, it looks as though this very tense position with the pawns looking at each other in the center, the winner in this game is going to qualify. And it's going to be one of those Russians you rarely hear about, but they're still so strong. To be fair, Vityugov actually made a name for himself lately because he was also very close to qualifying for the candidates via the FIDE World Cup. So he's having kind of the chess form of his life. Yeah. Well done to him. Let's see if he can beat Alexyenko in this position. Can I join the candidates via wildcard? No, Tankan. They have some minimum requirements on the rating you need to have and stuff. So even I'm not good enough to get a wildcard. I don't remember what it is though. Previously it was that you needed to have a higher than 27-25 average. But now I think they made the requirement even stricter than that. Top 10 average. That makes no sense. Oh, top 10. Oh, not the placement, but the ratings. So your rating average over 2019 has to be in the top 10. Okay, that seems fair. So is Karyakin then? Sounds like it, Kursey. Okay, are the players in time trouble? No. Okay, the other game remaining is this one between David Howell and Wang Hao. Wang Hao may have some chances because David is down to 6 minutes on the clock but it really feels as though a lot of pieces are getting exchanged off. We'll see. It's still possible to make a mistake here for David, especially since he's so low on time. He has 6 minutes for the next 23 moves, which, it sounds a lot, but David is kind of like the Grischuk of the 2600s. So he's very used to not having a lot of time. And he'll probably wiggle his way out of this trouble. However, if he does not get out of this, then Wang Hao is going to qualify for the candidates, as he has the best tie breaks. And if Wang Hao wins this, he's also going to win the Isle of Man tournament. Do you think Aronian and Nakamura lacked ambition? But the thing is, Ryata, man, they're literally playing the best guys in the world. I mean, how do you feel about having to win the game and then getting matched up against Magnus and getting matched up against Fabiano? I mean, both Hikaru and Aronian are probably fuming right now that they had to play these guys who already qualified in the cycle. But what are you going to do? Those are the rules, and they needed to win with the white pieces. I mean, Levon was incredibly aggressive. So that was the interesting thing. They had two very different strategies. Hikaru just tried playing something unusual, getting his opponent to think from the beginning and trying to outplay. Whereas Levon just went for the throat. He played super aggressive, the F3 Nimso. Extremely complicated battle. But in the end, all the pieces got exchanged off regardless. Because beating Magnus is pretty tricky. I don't know if you heard, but Magnus has gone 101 games undefeated. Beating him, having to play him in a must-win situation, it's not the greatest. Did you just say Wang Hao? Yeah. How do you feel I should say it? Wang? Wang is maybe more like Norwegian. Because I can't really get myself to pronounce it American style when it's really neither you nor I have any idea how it's pronounced. Hey Sarah, how you doing? I don't understand the question you just posted, Mr. Chow. Okay, I'm going to take a little break, and we'll be back for the time scramble between Howell and Wang Hao soon enough. Okay, we're back. We're gonna get the updates in Howell's game. Okay, so he chose not to exchange queens, which was the correct move according to the computers. But look at his time. He's really spending all the time he has trying to figure this out, trying to figure out how he's going to be able to make a draw. And that is, I mean, either he's going to make a draw in like 5 moves, or he's going to be in so much trouble. That's my prediction. And down to 2 minutes on the clock. What is your strategy if you're Wang Hao in this situation? Do you try to play quickly to put pressure on your opponent? Or do you try to go very slowly to try and exploit any minor inaccuracy Howell might be doing with the low time on the clock? What happens if Fabiano wins and a whole pack of players get shared second? In that case, Harmcraft, it's going to be the player with the best tiebreak, which I believe is Wang Hao. He's going to win the tournament. Let me just double check that no one's coming from behind, because that would be embarrassing. If I say Wang Hao is the candidate, and then it turns out there's some people on 6.5 points joining up with them. Let's see. David Anton has that best tiebreak of the people on 6.5, but he's nowhere close to Wang Hao's tiebreak. So let's see, who has Wang Hao been playing to give him such a strong tiebreak? He's played Anand, Vityugov, Carlsen, Aronyan, McShane, Maksudlo, Caruana, Boujangi, Mamedov, and Esipenko. Ooh, and Wang Hao started out the tournament with 3 points out of 3. So he had a really, really strong start as well. He had a strong start. He played Fabiano, he played Magnus, he played Levon, he played Vichy. That's, there's a reason why he has the best tiebreaks. I feel like if it goes to tiebreaks and Wang Hao wins it, that's pretty deserved. Gersey, I just checked, and David Anton is not going to overtake Wang Hao. Oh, there's a new move, and it's a really risky one. Where's my board update? Howell has sacrificed his queen. People, the guy is an absolute madman. David Howell sacrificing his queen. I mean, is this man trying to qualify to the candidates tournament? What is going on, people? Bishop d5. Okay, so rook d1. Bishop takes. Takes. So this bishop is controlling some juicy squares close to white's king. And if white is going to win this, he really needs to keep pawns on both sides of the board. So if Wang Hao wants to win, he probably needs to go b4 in order to keep the pawn protected. But this is a losing move because of bishop f3, and there's no way to stop rook d1 coming up next. And this is actually winning for black. Fabi is not happy? What are you talking about? I think this is brilliant from Howell. I mean, it's not a blunder. Howell definitely saw rook d1. And in this position, there's no way to defend this pawn on b2 because white has to protect against the threat of bishop f3. So this is a huge threat, setting up rook d1. So the computer is suggesting f3, but in this situation, bishop takes b2, and there's absolutely no way white can win this position. If anyone can win this, it's black. Which is why I think Howell's move, he spent so much time, but it was really, really clever. Really, really clever play. Hey Samith, how are you doing? Tiebreak score, yes, it's calculated by adding the ratings of their opponents. With a low time and a lot of moves to do, yeah, but low time doesn't really matter here, Gers, because all the pieces are on one side of the board regardless. Actually, it may matter, because after queen a7, if this bishop drops off, that's a bit of a disaster. So it depends on whether or not black can keep all the pieces defended. And here, if bishop takes f3, then queen takes b6 is a double attack on the rook and on the bishop. So maybe it's not such an easy draw as I initially said it was. And if something like rook d7 takes, bishop goes back into defense. Here, for some reason, yeah, queen b5. Queen b5, the computer says that this is +4, but the computer is actually wrong. Because even here, a position like this, where white manages to win this rook, because the rook needs to keep protecting the bishop. And if rook d8, then bishop e7, it's game over. But here, even bishop e6, even this position is an easy draw. The computer gives it as -4, but there's nothing white can do, I think. I'm pretty sure this should be a draw. I would be very surprised if this was winning. I didn't scream blunder, Mr. Burns. You gotta trust me, dude. Don't trust people, trust me. I don't know, computer's saying this is winning, +5. But I really don't see how. How are you gonna break through against those bishops? It may be possible, actually. It's very important here that the computer is suggesting g4. Because if black manages to play h5, you get even more pieces exchanged off, which is probably beneficial for your defensive tasks. We'll find out soon enough. Because Wang Hao is going to calculate this. He's going to come to the conclusion that I'm very close to making it to the candidates tournament. And I'm going to play rook d1. I'm going to take this man's queen. And I'm going to hope that he blunders something with his coordination and under time pressure. And then f3. There is an option to go bishop takes f3. My initial thought was to avoid that, to make sure that you get a hold of this pawn on b2, but maybe, yeah. So a position like this, the computer is saying that it's basically equal. So the computer respects that a pawn, a bishop, and a rook is a lot of compensation for a queen. We need Hammer to play this out versus the computer. Yeah, maybe Hayata Man, but I would probably lose against the computer. I'm not sure that's gonna give us the objective evaluation. However, we're gonna pay some attention to the game between Alexenko and Vityugov, because this game is so tense right now. There's pawn on c5, there's a pawn on d5. It's a very double-edged position, and the winner of this game, I think, very likely, will be the winner of a spot to play in the World Championship qualifiers, the candidates tournament. I'll see you later, Snakey. So this is pretty exciting, and there's still a lot of pieces on the board. He sacked his queen, but at least he's doing better than usual on the clock. I don't know, Trollsar. I think this is pretty low time, even by Howell's standards. Okay, so this is interesting. So white is on the move, and you can play d6 if you want to, but apparently there's going to be some rooks on the a file creating trouble. And in this position, even though you have this amazing pawn supported by another pawn, it's difficult for white's knights to get into the game. And also the rooks. The rooks are also struggling. So Alexyenko actually made a very mature decision there. Instead of giving himself the protected passed pawn, which looked amazing, but actually may not have been very good, he took on c6, which is, it's kind of disappointing because it means that a lot of the tension in the position disappears. And this is kind of I don't want to call it a chicken move, but it's definitely eliminating some of the excitement. Now it's very logical for Vityugov to take back. And black has this pressure against the pawn on e4. But on the other hand, white is going to get the rook up actively. It's really difficult to tell, but I think if anyone's better, it's Vityugov, who has that pressure against the pawn. So maybe we can see Vityugov taking his revenge on that unfortunate loss in the World Cup final to actually come back pretty much the same month and still manage to qualify for the candidates tournament. Hi Bergen, how are you doing? Will Wang Hao even try to win if these guys draw? Random name, the answer to that is no. If this game ends in a draw, Wang Hao will also make a draw, would be my prediction. I mean, then he's securing his qualification to the candidates tournament. Sounds perfect. But losing $20,000? Yeah, but the thing is, random name, the position is a draw. I mean, what are you gonna do, right? You can't really change the fact that the position with best play is gonna be a draw. But regardless, let's... ooh, wow. Stuff happened. Vityugov actually played rook c6 because he wanted to take back that pawn with the rook. And Alexyenko getting his rook to d6. It feels as though stuff is going to get exchanged off pretty soon. but there's still some stuff going on. There's a imbalance with each player having one passed pawn. So we'll see if that makes something happen. Van Gaal with a good position. I already said Nibot that I think it's just going to be a draw. I think Howell has a lot of compensation for the queen. But Van Gaal might get into the candidates regardless. Because if the game between Alexenko and Vityugov ends up in a draw, it's Van Gaal with the best tiebreaks. Yeah, random name. There definitely should be stricter rules on interviews, especially when you're disappointed with your result. There's a trend among the top players that's kind of, if you lose the game, you don't have to do the interview, and it's manifested itself through no one challenging them on it among the organizers. So I was doing interviews for TV2, one of the TV broadcasters for the Norway chess tournament, and we couldn't get anyone after they had lost their game. They would just say no or run away, basically. Thank you, Marius. I'm pretty happy with it. I have a new guy now. So when I was living at Bielsen, I went to this Chinese girl, but now recently I've been going to these Middle Eastern guys, and they really know their stuff. You know, Middle Eastern guys, they have a lot of hair, and they know how to deal with it. So I've been really happy with it. Who's your guy? Well, it's a new guy every single time. I need to go there more often to get a guy. What is the point of an interview if they don't want to give an interview and they just give non-answers? Mr. Burns, this may surprise you, but chess players are not very well trained for interview situations. And when you're not very well trained, you're also kind of, if an interviewer is good, it's difficult to give non-answers. Giving non-answers, answering a question without giving an answer, that is tradecraft. That is politician tradecraft. And I want to be given a shot at asking them some questions. And just also, it's interesting for the audience to see how devastated they are. I mean, I don't think people fully realize how incredibly upset chess players are when they lose a game, because we never get to see them. We never get to see them being outraged and, disappointed and all of that stuff. Hike, if you're a subscriber, you get some special emotes. And you also get to watch videos on demand. I think maybe... Do we have a command for it? I think maybe I deleted it. Yeah, I think I deleted the command. Lev was incredibly disappointed. Yeah, that was his chance, Flo. And he really went for it. He just couldn't make it happen. And also having to play against Magnus in a must-win situation. It's such bad luck, right? You get to use some of these emotes. Hike. Let's do some respect the bishops. We'll do some teacups. And some queen exchange. Magnus, when he lost the game versus Sergey in the World Championship, yeah, Adro. He wasn't having any of that. But at least there were kind of clear rules, and he was fined for leaving the press conference. Here, organizers are not really enforcing. They're not really having rules, and they're definitely not enforcing. Well, they can't enforce rules they don't have, right? What's the hammer point thing? It's a new thing, Marius. We're testing it out. We're one of the first adopters. But it's basically... How can I explain this to you? It's basically... what is Alex currency again? Fish fingers? It's basically chicken fingers organized by Twitch instead of one of these third-party apps. I think that's the best explanation I can offer you. Have you commented on the Howland decision to give up the queen? Yes, I have, Flo. I think it was very clever. He's a very smart kid. Watching people rage over losing a meaningless 1-minute game on the internet is kind of an indication of how they would feel when losing a game in regular over the board play. Yeah, that's fair, Paul M. When it actually matters. That is a very good point. Magnus already made a draw, Simberly. He's done for the day. He's not going to win this tournament. But what do the hammer fingers do? Okay, so Marius, Twitch has set up some things you can do automatically using the Twitch tools with your currency. So one of the things you can do is that you can highlight your message in chat, give it some kind of special attention. You can chat even though you're unsubscribed, and the chat is in subscribe only mode. But the thing is, we never use subscribe only mode, subscribers only. So I cannot really use that functionality. And then you can unlock a random emote for 24 hours. But for subscribers, you already have that access. So you don't really need it. And then you can unlock a specific emote for 24 hours. So right now, it's kind of suffering under the fact that a lot of the functionality is for non-subs only. Because the subs already have access. So basically, you can do... I think the main use is going to be the highlight your message functionality. Probably I should up the price a little bit. A lot of people are having the hammer coins so far. Well, chat in follower only mode, Marius, is different to chat in subscriber only mode. But yeah, I don't think I have followers only mode. I think having it is silly. Saying that you can only contribute to the community if you're following me, which is just a click, it doesn't make sense to me. I've never used that. Headline indicates cup tonight. Are you playing? Yes, I am, Bergen. I'm playing the Banter Blitz Cup starting at 10 p.m. Oslo time. You can also trade hammers for rating points in Chess 24. That would be pretty sweet, Hiata man. No, Flo, we're going to focus on this time scramble between Wang Hao and David Howell. Okay, we have some moves. This is pretty exciting. So f4 was played, and after bishop takes b2, now queen a7. Howell is down to 2 minutes on the clock, and I'm not entirely convinced that he saw this move for Van Howell, because the bishop is under attack and the pawn is under attack. The fact that the pawn is under attack doesn't really matter. What matters is that when the queen takes the pawn, there's an attack on the rook and there's an attack on the bishop. And Howell is going to have to play some good moves right now in order to end up in a situation here where he doesn't lose one of his pieces. And if he's successful in that, he's going to make a draw. But for now, it's not really clear to me where he should move this bishop, which means it's not really clear whether he's going to survive this. And a very natural move here is playing rook d7, because that keeps everything protected. And then the question is, after queen takes b6 and the bishop moves back, we've seen this very cool variation with queen b5, which actually, by combining some threats towards the back rank and towards the bishop and the rook, could end up in a situation where we get this endgame with two bishops against a queen. Ooh, but I'm noticing now that this is very interesting. Because Van Howell played his pawn to f4, what is going on? Why is there a sudden... Because he put the pawn on f4 instead of putting the pawn on f3, he no longer controls the g4 square. And because of that, this endgame is much less likely for white to be a win, because black is going to be able to go h5 and exchange off at the minimum one pawn, possibly two. Okay, Ryata man, I am raising the price. Oh my gosh. You guys. First thing after I go offline, Hammer's price is getting tenfolded. Tenfolded, I tell you. And if you guys are upset with that, you can have Ryata man to blame. I'll maybe make one of the uses for hammer points a pretty cheap usage to time out Ryata man for 60 seconds. That sounds fair. When will Peter Heine Nielsen start streaming chess? Well, he has two very young kids. I think he's way too busy. Also, Magnus is, he's Magnus's workhorse. We can't have him prioritizing his time differently than he is doing now. Hey Gushy, how you doing? What are you up to these days? Let's say the pawns are gone. Yeah, well then it's an easy draw. I think the big question here in this kind of position is, how would you evaluate if you manage to put the pawns up the board, right? Something like this. Is this a draw? I don't really know. Ulan gifting a sub to Gushy. Thank you so much. Oh, I made a big mistake. My alerts are not in front. I apologize, Ulan. My bad. New layout. Some initial starting out problems with it. Hey, 800, how you doing? Where are the 8-piece table bases when we need it? Yeah, tell me about it. However, there are 6-piece table bases. This should be a draw, right? I would think so. Now for sure blunder. Okay, let's see. Oh, Wang Hao can make it into the candidates. What happened? Let's take a look. He did go rook d7. That's a very human way of playing. Wang Hao took it. And then queen b5. Yeah, so this is the line that puts a lot of pressure on black. Because I feel like this basically forces into the two bishops endgame. Where we hadn't really concluded whether it was a fortress or not. Instead, a check has been given. Wow, look at this. Howell is trying to hide his bishops in the corner. Both bishops in the corner. It's not the best square for a bishop, but at least they're protected by the rook. Now the question is, can we force the rook out? Ooh, queen b3. That's a very easy move. It's a very easy move. Queen attacking the rook. The rook has no squares it can go to along the first rank. And if it moves back, then queen b1 with a double attack on both bishops. Wang Hao is going to the candidates. And let us mention that I have a two wins out of 2 against Wang Hao. No, that's not true. Actually, we made a couple of draws. But I have a plus score against Wang Hao. He's going to the candidates. Let's go. Well done. Boots, yeah, I'm not great at, the internet thingies. Thanks, Boots. I am actually not familiar with what you're referring to, Marius. I have high doubts about whether or not I should do what I'm just about to do, but can you actually link to whatever butt video you're talking about? It's not that often we're allowing butt videos on stream, but yeah. Okay, I'm just digging my grave here. Send us a link, Marius. Oh, bullet video. Is that really what you wrote? No, you wrote something else. Can we agree that you did not write that initially? And that really confused me. We were filming the bullet videos in the Play Magnus offices near Stortinget at Mesh. You tried writing bullet. Okay. Fabiano will be mad. Oh, yeah, that's true. Gushy. This also means that Wang Hao is going to win the tournament. Okay, what has happened though? Wow, he didn't go for that easy line. That really surprises me. Queen b3 was so easy. Just get the rook off and then attack both bishops. Instead, he's gone for queen e8 check, king moves, and then bishop c5. Okay, so he's going for the attack instead. But it's a pretty good attack, to be fair. Solid attacking chances. The threat is bishop f8 followed by queen e7. So say something like bishop d5, then bishop f8, queen e7. Oh, not that one. Queen e7. And then g4 is checkmate, computer says. Okay, that's pretty fancy, but pretty good. Checkmate! Okay. And what happened? So Howell played h5 instead. But once again, bishop f8 is going to be a problem. Bishop f8, king f6, queen, check, check, checkmate. Okay, Wang Hao, probably even better than what we did. Fabi had half a point ahead. Yeah, Gushi. But Fabiano is still going to be shared first place. It's a really solid tournament from him. It's just Wang Hao made the last ditch effort and fought his way into the top. Wang Hao beating Vishy Anand with the black pieces the last round. And now beating Howell. Wang Hao has, in this tournament, played against Anand, Carlsen, Caruana, and Aronian. So he hasn't had an easy journey at all. Is it true that Magnus usually plays better in the first half of the year? I don't know, random name. Surely you can make some statistics on that. Magnus made a draw today at Arenio. It was a really interesting game against Aronian where pretty much both players needed to win. And they played a really aggressive, dangerous opening. But in the end, it ended in a draw. Doesn't Fabi have 8 points? Yeah, this is the standings before the round started. So Fabiano made a draw and Wang Hao is about to win, which is going to make up the half a point deficit. And because of the superior tie breaks, Wang Hao is going to win it. What happened here? Oliveira, Howell sacrificed the queen, which I think was okay. But then he made a blunder afterwards, having... Let's just say he had less time than he should have had. I think that's very diplomatic. I'll stick with that. He had less time than he should have had. And he made a mistake. He actually stopped with the orange juice, Hiyata-man. So no longer the orange juice is affecting Magnus's play. If you had enough time, yeah. I feel like that's a pretty common problem. I've experienced it more lately than I have previously in my life. So much to do, so little time. Banana is affecting the game as well. Yeah, let's not forget about that, Amphirio. He had a terrible season after he quit the orange juice. Well, he's done well for himself the last 100 games, though, Marius. Maybe he just needed some time to acclimatize himself from the lack of orange juice. Okay, so Wang Hao has taken one pawn with a check. And now the question is, can David go bishop f6 so that he doesn't lose the pawn on g6 as well? And I think it's fair to say that bishop f6 is not going to solve his problems, because the queen and bishop kind of creating some trouble. Oh, you're being sarcastic, Marius. Wow. It's as if I have trouble understanding sarcasm. Go figure. It's 101 games undefeated, Fishing Moby. We'll see where he ends up. He's playing a new tournament in London. New tournament in London at the in early December. Karmar, thank you so much for the 7-month resub. Okay, so what's going to happen now? We're going to get the final confirmation for the result between Wang Hao and David Howell. I suspect it's going to happen very soon because Wang Hao can capture a pawn, bishop, with a check. And then he can capture a pawn with a check. And the whole kingdom, Britannia, is going down. And I think David is going to resign at some very soon. And after that, I'm going to go off the line. We'll congratulate Van Gaal with a very nice win and getting the spot in the candidates tournament. And then I'm going to be back at 9:30. I'll be back 9:30. That's, what is that Eastern? That's 3:30 Eastern. Because I'm playing my Banter Blitz match today against Christian Cruz from Peru, who is lower rated than me over the board. But frankly, he's a pretty good player. So I think it's going to be a very tough match. And I hope you guys are going to stick around and follow the match. How much time from now? It's in 3 hours, Hiataman. 3 hours and 15 minutes. Hand and brain, where the brain is randomly generated pieces if they are legal. That sounds pretty good to me, Marius. Honestly, I feel like I had a similar idea once. A little late, but watch some of it. I'm hoping you will, Bergen. Thank you. That's great, everyone. Okay, actually, David has not yet resigned, but his pawns are getting captured. And the engine is announcing there is a checkmate available in 16 moves. I'm not saying that I'm going to find the checkmate right now. Also, there's kind of moves like bishop h4 and then just take the pawn on h5. Somehow, Van Gaal, I am guaranteeing it on stream, Van Gaal is going to win this. And as a result of him winning this, he has won the Isle of Man Grand Swiss Tournament. Big congrats to him with the 2 wins in a row at the end, securing the victory. He has also qualified to the World Championship qualifier in March 2020. It's an 8-player tournament where the winner gets to play a match against Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship title. And until then, no, wait. That's not what I was supposed to say. You can use !schedule in chat to get a list of my upcoming streams this week, including the match against Christian Cruz, starting in 3 hours. I'm going to find someone streaming at the moment and we'll send them a raid. It feels like a pretty safe bet that someone is streaming. Let's see here. I'm going to need this in full screen. Let's see. King's Crusher. Okay, King's Crusher is basically the only one. But we'll raid him. And I hope to see you guys later today. You know what? Let's raid the chess channel. They're doing Isle of Man broadcast. Bye, everyone.